Robin was sitting on his horse looking into the last of them when a voice spoke up from behind him. "They tell me there's only one this morning for the rope. Killed the king's deer, he did. Not likely to be killing any more, is he? Poor beggar. Still, be a nice day for a hanging. I never miss one, you know, never." The man squinted up at Robin, shielding his eyes against the white glare of the sun. Robin left him and rode over the drawbridge into the castle courtyard. He did not think twice about what he was doing. In fact, he did not think about it at all. He just did it. The courtyard was full of soldiers, and a smith was shoeing for a smoky shed nearby. Robin tied up his horse and strode into the castle. He tried to look as if he knew where he was, all the time searching for a stairway that might lead him down to the dungeons below. No one challenged him. No one even appeared to notice he was there. He saw two soldiers emerging from a narrow doorway behind the main staircase. As he passed them, one of them spoke. Like Samson, Sheriff's own word. "Sheriff's idea, was it then?" "I heard it was Guy of Gisborne," said the other. "He said that if a fellow was big like Samson, well, then, maybe we'd better treat him like Samson. He did it all by himself, by all accounts." Robin's heart chilled. The stone stair spiralled into the darkness, lit only sparingly by torchlight. He came to a long corridor, two guards at the end of it, sitting at a table playing dice. Robin walked towards them, hand on the hilt of his sword. "You come for Samson?" asked one of the guards, and he didn't even wait for a reply. He threw him the key. "In there," he said, pointing to Robin to one of the dungeon doors. "Help yourself. He'll hang well, that one. Good and heavy." And they went back to the dice. Robin unlocked the door and went in. His father sat on the stone floor, his head in his hands. When he looked up, Robin saw there was a bandage around his eyes and a rope around his neck. Robin crouched down beside him and helped him gently to his feet. "It's me, father," he whispered. "It's Robin." His father reached out, felt for Robin's face, and held it tight between his hands. "They've put out my eyes, Robin," he said. "I'm no use to you anymore, no use to anyone. Let me die, Robin. Just leave me and let me die." Chapter 4. A Blow for Freedom. For some moments father and son clung together and wept silently. "Until now, father," said Robin, his hushed voice. "I have obeyed you in everything. Blind or not, I shall not leave you here to die." And he loosened the rope around his father's neck as he spoke. "We shall walk out of here, me as a sheriff's man, and you at the end of this rope as my prisoner. Just play the games I play, father, and we both shall live." "What for? What is there to live for?" "To fight. We will fight this tyrant, and we shall bring him to his knees, I promise you, if it takes my whole lifetime." He pulled gently on the rope. "Forgive me, father, but from now on I must treat you as they would. It won't be for long, and curse me back all you like. It'll be better if you do." He took a deep breath and then shouted into his father's face. "Up, you scumbag, up!" He threw open the door and dragged his father out past the guards. "Bit early, aren't you?" said one of them. "So Guy of Gisborne's orders," Robin said. "Come on, Samson, move yourself, you great oaf." And Robin jerked on the rope and hauled his father up the winding staircase, along the great hall of the castle and out into the courtyard below. Beyond the arched gateway, Robin could see the milling crowd in the market square and the horse waiting, tied to one of the cages where he had left it. There was still the wide courtyard to cross, and then the drawbridge, and at the end of it were the castle guards. Somehow Robin and his father had to get past them without arousing suspicion. Slipping past unnoticed would be impossible. Robin went round behind his father, drew his sword, and jabbed him in the back, none too gently. "When I kick you, father," he whispered, "fall over. Understand?" His father staggered forward, across the courtyard, through the gateway, and out onto the drawbridge, arms outstretched in front of him. Robin was taunting him and prodding him on, much to the delight of the onlookers. "I'll show you, Samson. Kill the king's deer, would you?" Once on the drawbridge, and close now to the guards, he stepped back and took a running kick at his father, who stumbled to his knees, groping out in front of him, cursing and crying at the same time. Robin laid into him with the flat of his sword and kicked him again. "Up, you beggar! Get up!" Then he called out to the guards. "Here, give us a hand, will you? Sir Guy wants him to parade around the square before we put him in his cage. We'll stick him up on that horse. They'll see him better." So between them the guards heaved him up onto the horse. "Once round the square and into his cage," said Robin, taking the rein over the horse's head to lead it. "That's what Sir Guy said, so that's what I'll do. It'll be the last time this one's going to be going to market." The guards laughed at that and watched them go. Robin walked away as slowly as he dared, calling out as he went, Look at this! Look at this! See what happens to poachers! We put his eyes out and we're hanging him at noon. Death to all poachers! Throw at him what you like, just don't hit me, that's all." And the crowd howled with laughter and began to throw anything they could, rotten apples, turnips, even pig's muck. Much of it missed, but enough found its targets to encourage others to do the same. They were halfway around the market square now, at the furthest point from the sheriff's men, who were still lounging by the bridge. Feigning to adjust the girth, Robin leapt nimbly up behind his father, put his heels to the horse's side, and rode off past the traders, through the crowd who seemed to see it as part of the fun, particularly when he caught a rotten apple and squeezed it over his father's head. Robin gave only one glance back as he turned out of the square and down the street. The sheriff's men were just beginning to notice. One of them was running after him and shouting for him to stop. They would be after him soon enough now. Robin just hoped and prayed that he had enough of a head start. "Hold on, father," he cried. "Just hold on." Scattering people and pigs and sheep in all directions, he thundered down the street, through the city gates, and out into the open country beyond. The guards at the gate could only gape. He was past them and gone before anyone could even try to stop him. But now would come the real test. There were 4 or 5 miles of open farmland before they could reach the safety of Sherwood. A look over his shoulder, and Robin saw the chase was on. The sheriff's men were through the city gates, already closer behind than he thought possible. 20 of them, maybe more, and every time he looked, they were gaining on them. The horse laboured under their weight, his head nodding lower and lower as he drove his legs on. Sherwood lay up ahead, just the hill to climb, but it was a long hill, and the horse could barely make a trot by now. Desperately, Robin looked around for somewhere to hide, anywhere, but there was nothing but hedgerows and haystacks between them and the forest. They had to keep going. They could hear the pounding of the hoofs behind him now, and then first arrow flew by, missing them, but knew they were well in range. He pushed his father forward to lie over the horse's neck, and then lay on top of him. "We'll make it," he cried, but it was more in hope than in belief. The horse's legs and flanks were white with lather. He had given his all, and Robin knew it. Robin looked up. The road narrowed ahead as it entered the forest. Just a minute more, maybe 2, but all the while the horse was slowing, weaving. At this rate, even if they reached forward ahead of the sheriff's men, even if they were not hit by a lucky arrow, the sheriff's men would be so close behind there would be no escape, even in Sherwood. The horse was staggering, his lungs wheezing. Any further and he would die under them. Still short of the forest, Robin dismounted quickly, helped his father down, and then in hand they ran for the trees. More arrows flew past them, some too close for comfort. Robin wanted to dodge and swerve as his father had taught him, but with his father stumbling beside him, he could not. Speed was all that would save them. Then they were in under the trees and swallowed by shade. For just a few brief moments, Robin knew that they would be invisible to the sheriff's men as they followed them out of the sunlight into the dark forest. Hauling his father behind him, he plunged into the undergrowth and then went into the ground in the thicket, lying still as fawns do. There were voices in the forest now, barking commands, the jingle of the harness, horses breathing hard, pawing at the ground. Robin looked into the trees above him. Something had caught his eye. A white moon in the branches that suddenly fell out and downwards. A great whooping filled the forest, and there were men crying out, their screams cut suddenly short.